The dying like the stars were dying, and Ambassador Zara Fell could do nothing but watch. From the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Peaceful Current, she pressed her scaled hands against the reinforced viewing port. Where the colony world of Helios Prime had once sparkled like a blue jewel, now only darkness remained. Not the natural darkness of space, but something far worse. Something that seemed to swallow light itself. "Ambassador," came the gentle voice of Captain Rallick behind her. The elderly Kellenese gills fluttered with distress as he approached. The final transmission from the surface just ended. 11 million souls, gone in less than 4 hours. Zara's. Webbed fingers traced patterns of mourning on the cold metal surface. In her people's ancient language, she whispered prayers for the dead. The Keleni had been peaceful for over 3,000 years. They had forgotten how to wage war, forgotten how to hate. They had thought the galaxy was finally safe. They had been wrong. "How many systems now?" she asked without turning around. 17 in the past 6 months, Captain Relic replied. His voice carried the weight of impossible numbers. A tribunal. Estimates we have lost over 200 billion beings to the Shadow Collective. A Shadow Collective. Even the name made Zara's blood run cold. They had appeared without warning from the void between galaxies, beings of pure energy that consumed entire worlds. Not for resources or territory, but for reasons no one could understand. They simply came, they devoured, and they moved on. United fleets of the Galactic Trade Union had tried to stop them. The mighty Corvin battlecruisers with their plasma cannons. The swift Aldorian interceptors with their quantum missiles. The massive Xantarian dreadnoughts with their gravitational weapons. All of them had failed. The Shadow Collective learned from each encounter, adapted, and struck back with devastating efficiency. "The Council of Worlds is meeting in emergency session," Captain Relic continued. "They want to discuss evacuation protocols for the core." "Systems. Evacuation?" Zara turned to face him, her large eyes reflecting the dim lighting of the bridge. "We are talking about abandoning half the galaxy. What choice do we have?" The captain's crest fins drooped in defeat. "Our weapons pass through them like they are made of nothing. Their attacks drain the life from entire planets. We are fighting ghosts that can kill worlds." Zara moved to the navigation console, studying the holographic display of their current sector. Red markers showed the Shadow Collective's advance, a spreading stain of conquered systems. But there, in a remote corner of the map, was something that caught her attention. "What is this?" She pointed to a small, isolated system marked with unusual classification codes. Captain Relic swam closer through the ship's aquatic corridors. "Ah, that is the Sol system. Single G-type star, several planets. The third planet shows signs of industrial civilization, but they have been classified as a restricted world." "Restricted? Why?" The captain's expression grew uncomfortable. "The initial survey team visited there about 50 years ago. They found a species called humans, but the beings were deemed too primitive and violent for contact. The reports described endless warfare, environmental destruction, and aggressive territorial behavior." Zara studied the classification notes. The humans had been labeled as a chaotic species and flagged for observation only. But as she read deeper into the files, something began to intrigue her. "Look at this," she said, highlighting sections of the report. "They have survived multiple extinction events, ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, and they kept rebuilding. And these war records? They have been fighting continuously for thousands of years. Exactly why they were classified as too dangerous for contact." Captain Relic pointed out, but Zara was thinking differently. The entire galaxy had known peace for millennia. They had grown soft, comfortable, unprepared for real conflict. But here was a species that had never known true peace, that had been forged in the fires of constant struggle. "Captain," she said slowly, "what if we have been looking at this wrong? What if their violence is not a weakness, but exactly what we need?" Before Captain Ralak could respond, alarms began wailing throughout the ship. The peaceful blue lighting of the bridge shifted to emergency red as tactical displays flashed with new data. Shadow Collective vessels detected. Called out the sensor operator. 3 massive forms approaching from the outer system. Through the viewing port, Zara could see them now. Not ships in any conventional sense, but writhing masses of pure darkness that moved between the stars like living nightmares. They pulsed with an alien intelligence that made her mind recoil from their presence. "All ships retreat to minimum safe distance," Captain Rillick ordered. But Zara was already making a different decision. "No," she said firmly. "Set course for the Sol system, maximum speed." "Ambassador, that would violate 50 years of non-contact protocols." "The protocols assumed we would never face extinction," Zara replied. "Open a channel to the Council of Worlds. Tell them I am making emergency first contact with the humans under Article 7 of the Survival Doctrine." As the peaceful current turned away from the dying system, Zara watched the Shadow Collective consume what remained of Helios Prime. Darkness spread like spilled ink across the void, erasing another world from existence. The journey to Sol took 3 days at maximum warp. During that time, Zara studied everything the Union had gathered about humanity. What she learned both terrified and fascinated her. These beings had fought wars with weapons that could destroy their own world. They had created art celebrating violence while simultaneously producing works of incredible beauty. They had poisoned their own atmosphere and then developed technology to clean it. They were contradictions wrapped in flesh. "We are approaching the Sol system," Captain Rillick announced. "I am detecting massive artificial structures throughout the system. The humans have been busy." The tactical display showed an astounding sight. The humans had not just colonized their local system, they had militarized it. Orbital defense platforms surrounded the inner planets. Asteroid mining operations had been converted into weapons manufacturing. The space between worlds bristled with patrol vessels and communication arrays. "By the depths," whispered the sensor operator. "Are those weapons pointing at us?" Indeed, every human installation in the system had turned to track their approach. Warning beacons activated, broadcasting messages in dozens of languages. Most were incomprehensible, but the universal translator managed to decode the basic meaning. "Identify yourself or be destroyed." "Open a communication channel," Zara ordered. "All frequencies." The main screen flickered and displayed a human face. A being was younger than Zara had expected, with short dark hair and intense brown eyes. She wore a military uniform covered, an insignia that spoke of rank and experience. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth Deep Space Command," the human said. Her voice was crisp and professional. "You are in violation of Earth territorial space. State your identity and purpose, or you will be considered hostile." Zara stepped forward, hoping her diplomatic training would serve her well. "Captain Shun, I am Ambassador Zara Fell of the Galactic Trade Union. We come seeking urgent assistance. Our civilization faces extinction, and we believe humanity may be our only hope." The human's expression did not change, but Zara caught a flicker of surprise in her eyes. "Galactic Trade Union? We have never heard of such an organization." "We have maintained a policy of non-contact with your species," Zara admitted. "But circumstances have forced us to reconsider." "May we speak in person?" Captain Chun was quiet for a long moment, presumably consulting with others off-screen. Finally, she nodded. "You may approach Earth orbit. A delegation will meet you at Luna Station. But be warned, any aggressive action will result in your immediate destruction." As their ship approached the human homeworld, Zara marveled at what she saw. Earth was beautiful in a way that reminded her of the old Kelani homeworld, but it was also clearly the home of warriors. Military satellites tracked their every movement. Fighter squadrons escorted them in formations that looked both graceful and deadly. Luna Station was a masterpiece of military engineering, disguised as a diplomatic facility. As Zara and a small, diplomatic team docked with the station, she realized that every surface, every corridor, every room was designed to be defended. These beings thought like soldiers, even in their peaceful spaces. The meeting room was simple but functional. Captain Chun waited with two other humans. One was an older man with gray hair and scars that spoke of actual combat experience. The other was a woman with the bearing of a scientist, but the alert eyes of a soldier. "I am Admiral Marcus Stone," the older man said. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, our xenobiology specialist. We understand you have a problem that requires military assistance." Zara activated her datapad, displaying images of the Shadow Collective's destruction. The humans watched in silence as she showed them the consumed worlds, the failed battles, the retreat of the Union fleets. "These entities appeared 6 months ago," she explained. "They consume entire systems and adapt to our weapons. 17 worlds have been lost. Over 200 billion beings are dead." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward, studying the tactical data. "Energy beings. Fascinating. What weapons have you tried?" "Everything," Zara replied. "Plasma cannons, quantum missiles, gravitational bombs. Nothing affects them. They seem to exist partially, outside normal space-time." Admiral Stone was quiet for a long moment, his scarred face thoughtful. Finally, he looked up at Zara with eyes that had seen too many battles. "Ambassador," he said slowly, "you came to the right place. We have been preparing for war our entire history. Fighting impossible enemies is what we do best." Captain Chun activated a holographic display showing Earth's military assets. What Zara saw made her hearts race with hope and terror in equal measure. The humans had built weapons that could crack moons, ships that could survive the radiation of stars, soldiers trained to fight in every environment imaginable. "We will help you," Admiral Stone continued. "But you need to understand something about humanity. We do not fight wars to win. We fight wars to survive. And we have been surviving for a very long time." As alarms suddenly blared throughout Luna Station, a young officer rushed into the room. "Admiral, we are receiving emergency signals from multiple systems. The Shadow Collective has begun a massive offensive. They are moving toward the core worlds." Zara felt her hope crumble. "It is too late. By the time we organize a response, they will have consumed everything." But Admiral Stone was already moving, his staff snapping into action with practiced efficiency. "Captain Chun, signal all fleets. Full mobilization. Dr. Vasquez, I want analysis of these energy beings within." "The hour." He turned to Zara, and she saw something in his eyes that she had never seen in any Union leader. Not fear, not desperation, but anticipation. "Ambassador," he said with a grim smile, "you are about to learn why humanity has never lost a war." That mattered. The Shadow Collective picked the wrong galaxy to invade. The storm unleashed the sight of the human war fleet emerging from hyperspace was something Ambassador Zara Thel would remember for the rest of her life. She stood on the bridge of the UTS Harmony, the Union's last remaining command vessel, watching as humanity's answer to the Shadow Collective materialized in the contested Kepler system. What she saw defied everything she thought she knew about warfare. The Union fleets were beautiful in their symmetry. Sleek vessels with graceful curves, designed as much for aesthetics as function. They moved in perfect formations, their actions coordinated by careful planning and committee decisions. The human fleet was chaos, given form. Ships of every size and configuration dropped out of hyperspace, in a ragged line that stretched across half the system. Some were massive dreadnoughts bristling with weapons that had no galactic equivalent. Others were tiny fighters that moved like angry insects. Many ships looked like they had been built in different eras, using different technologies by different minds that had never agreed on what a warship should look like. "By the depths," whispered Captain Rayleigh. "How many vessels is that?" Admiral Stone's voice crackled through the communication system from his flagship, the EDF Retribution. "Final count, 2,347 combat vessels, plus support craft. Every ship humanity could spare, and a few we probably should not have." Zara stared at the tactical display. The Union had managed to assemble barely 400 ships for what everyone expected to be the final battle. But the humans had brought an entire civilization's worth of military might. "Admiral," she said, "your fleet is incredible, but the Shadow Collective has already consumed the outer defense lines. They are heading directly for the core worlds. We estimate they will arrive in less than 6 hours." "Good," came Stone's reply. "That gives us time to set up a proper welcome." Dr. Elena Vasquez appeared on the communication screen, her face excited despite the dire circumstances. "Ambassador, we have completed our analysis of the Shadow Collective. We think we understand what they are." The main display shifted to show Dr. Vasquez's research data. Complex equations and energy readings filled the screen, but she simplified it for the mixed alien and human audience. "They are not just energy beings," she explained. "They are artificial intelligences made of quantum energy, created by some ancient civilization. They exist in a state of perfect order, their consciousness distributed across multiple dimensions." "That explains why our weapons do not work," said Captain Willick. "They exist partially outside normal space." "Exactly," Dr. Vasquez continued. "But here is what is interesting. Perfect order has a weakness. It cannot adapt to true chaos. The Union's attacks failed because they were too organized, too predictable. The Shadow Collective could analyze and counter them." Admiral Stone's scarred face appeared on screen, showing the grin of a predator who had found prey. "Doctor, are you telling me that being unpredictable is a tactical advantage?" "More than that, Admiral. Chaos is their kryptonite. The more random and illogical our attacks, the less they can defend against them." Zara felt a chill run through her gills. "You are saying that humanity's chaotic nature is exactly what we need to fight them?" "Ambassador," Admiral Stone said, "chaos is what we do best. We have been fighting dirty, unfair, and unpredictable wars for our entire history. The Shadow Collective is about to learn why that matters." The enemy arrived like a living nightmare. The Shadow Collective's main force emerged from the void between dimensions, their forms shifting between solid matter and pure energy. They moved in perfect coordination, their attacks calculated with mathematical precision. The Union fleet tried to engage them using traditional tactics: coordinated volleys, defensive formations, strategic withdrawals. It was like watching children fight adults. The shadow entities absorbed the attacks, analyzed the patterns, and responded with devastating efficiency. "Union vessels, fall back to secondary positions," Admiral Stone ordered. "Let us show you how Earth fights impossible enemies." What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations, assuming there were any academies left. After the battle, the human fleet did not charge forward in formation. Instead, they scattered like startled fish, each ship moving independently. Some attacked from above, others from below. A few ships flew directly at the shadow entities before veering away at the last second. Several vessels began broadcasting Earth music at maximum volume, filling the void with everything from classical symphonies to heavy metal. "What are they doing?" Captain Relic asked in confusion. They are being human, Zara replied, beginning to understand. The Shadow Collective tried to analyze the human attack patterns, but there were no patterns. Every ship fought differently. Some used conventional weapons. Others deployed devices that seemed to have been built in someone's garage. One human vessel began ramming Shadow entities while broadcasting what sounded like war cries in multiple languages. Captain Sarah Chun's voice came through the communications. Array as her ship, the EDF Defiance, engaged a massive shadow construct. All ships remember the doctrine. If it is stupid but it works, it is not stupid. Her ship fired a spread of missiles that seemed to be filled with everything from nuclear warheads to what looked like glitter. The shadow entity tried to analyze the attack and adapt, but the sheer randomness overwhelmed its processing systems. Dr. Vesky's voice crackled through the battle chatter. It is working. The shadow entities are showing signs of system overload. They cannot adapt to pure chaos. Admiral, reported Captain Chun, the entities are breaking formation. They are starting to fight like us. Then we changed the game again, Stone replied. All ships implement Pattern Omega. Zara had no idea what Pattern Omega meant, but the result was immediate. The scattered human fleet suddenly snapped into perfect military formation. They moved with precision that would have impressed the most disciplined Union commanders. Their attacks became coordinated, calculated, and devastatingly effective. Shadow entities, having adapted to fight chaos, were caught completely off guard by the sudden shift to order. Their defenses, reconfigured for randomness, could not handle the precisely timed assault. Impossible, breathed Captain Rillick. They are fighting with perfect order and perfect chaos simultaneously. That is humanity, Zara said with growing. They can be anything they need to be. The tide of battle began to turn. Human ships darted between shadow entities, like wolves attacking a herd. They used weapons that should not have worked, tactics that defied logic, and strategies that seemed to be invented on the spot. One human captain began broadcasting cooking recipes while firing quantum torpedoes. Another ship painted itself bright, pink, and flew in loops while deploying what appeared to be weaponized disco balls. A third vessel somehow convinced its crew to sing in harmony while launching an attack that combined gravity bombs with confetti cannons. The shadow entities, beings of pure logic and order, simply could not process the absurdity of fighting an enemy that made no sense. "This is Admiral Stone to all Union vessels," came the command. "Join the attack, but follow our lead. Do not try to make sense of what we are doing. Just pick a human ship and copy their movements." The remaining Union ships began to follow the humans into battle. Zara watched as dignified Kelani captains found themselves broadcasting Earth Children songs while firing plasma cannons. Proud, Corvin warriors painted their ships in ridiculous colors and began attacking in zigzag patterns that made their navigators seasick. It was absurd. It was illogical. It was completely insane. It was working. The shadow entities began to retreat, their perfect formations breaking down as they tried to process the impossible data of fighting beings who could be ordered and chaotic, logical and insane, peaceful and warlike all at the same time. "They are withdrawing," reported Dr. Vasquez. "The quantum coherence of their collective consciousness is destabilizing." But Admiral Stone was not finished. "All ships pursue the enemy. Do not let them escape to consume more worlds." "Admiral," Zara said, "they are retreating. We have won." "Ambassador," Stone replied, his voice hard as stellar iron, "we have not won until they can never threaten anyone again. This is how humanity fights. We do not just defeat our enemies. We make sure they can never come back." The human fleet pursued. The Shadow Collective beyond the edge of the galaxy their chaotic tactics continuing to overwhelm the entity's ability to adapt. It was not just a military victory, it was a complete cognitive defeat. The Shadow Collective, beings of perfect order, had encountered something that broke their understanding of reality itself. 3 days later, the last shadow entity was destroyed or driven back into the void between galaxies. The threat that had consumed 17 worlds and killed hundreds of billions was ended. In the aftermath, as the combined fleets regrouped, Zara found herself aboard Admiral Stone's flagship. The human command center was controlled chaos, with officers managing a dozen different tasks simultaneously while somehow maintaining perfect coordination. "Admiral," she said, "I need to understand something. How did you know that chaos would work against them?" Stone poured himself a cup of what he called coffee, a bitter human stimulant that seemed to be the cornerstone of their military efficiency. "Ambassador, we did not know. We never know if something will work until we try it. That is the point." "The point?" "Humanity has survived everything our universe could throw at us because we are unpredictable, even to ourselves. We can be the most peaceful beings in the galaxy or the most violent, sometimes in the same conversation. We can build beautiful art or terrible weapons, often using the same tools. We adapt not just to our enemies, but to everything." Dr. Vasquez joined them, her datapad showing the final analysis of the battle. The Shadow Collective was created by a civilization that achieved perfect order. They eliminated chaos, randomness, and unpredictability from their society. It made them incredibly efficient, but it also made them vulnerable to something they could never understand. "Us," Zara said quietly. "All of us," Stone corrected. "Humans, Kelani, Corvin, everyone. The universe is not supposed to make sense. Life is chaotic, messy, and unpredictable. That is not a weakness. That is our greatest strength." Captain Chun appeared on the bridge, her uniform torn and her face showing the exhaustion of 3 days of continuous combat. "Admiral, final casualty. Reports. We lost 43 ships, but the entire Shadow Collective has been eliminated or driven off." Stone nodded solemnly. "Honor the fallen. They died protecting not just Earth, but the entire galaxy." As the human fleet prepared to return home, Zara realized that everything had changed. The galaxy now knew that Earth existed, and more importantly, what Earth was capable of. The peaceful civilizations of the Union would never again have to face extinction alone. "Admiral," she said, "the Galactic Trade Union would like to offer humanity full membership. We need protectors, and you need allies." Stone smiled, but it was a different smile than before. Not the grin of a predator, but the expression of someone who had found their purpose. "Ambassador, we would be honored. But understand that if you accept us, you accept all of us. The good and the bad, the peaceful and the violent, the ordered and the chaotic." "I think," Zara said, watching the last of the shadow entities flee into the darkness, "that is exactly what the galaxy needs." As the combined fleet jumped back to civilized space, Earth's first message to the galaxy was broadcast on all frequencies. It was simple, direct, and perfectly human. "This is Admiral Marcus Stone of the Earth Defense Force. To all beings in the galaxy, Earth stands ready to defend those who cannot defend themselves. We are chaos. We are order. We are whatever we need to be, and we are no longer alone." The age of Earth's isolation was over. The age of the galaxy's protectors had begun. Asterisk.